We're on the campaign trail in Omaha and talking now with Shane Osborn, who is a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate. And, of course, Shane, many folks know, is former state treasurer in Nebraska. And, Shane, we're going to talk about a number of issues. Let's first start off with agriculture. As many folks know, agriculture drives the Nebraska economy. What's your stance on agriculture?
Well, we are an ag state. It's helped us weather the storm through this financial downturn over the past several years, and we need to make sure that we keep our priorities straight, and that's opening up free markets for our ag producers, having the infrastructure necessary to get our products to market. And I tell you what, we've got to rein in the regulators. You know, I've traveled over 44,000 miles around this big, beautiful state. And if there's one thing I hear from farmers, ranchers, and people in manufacturing, financial services, it doesn't matter. It's the regulators. You know, the EPA, the OSHA, and the overreach. And Senator Mike Johans has done a great job of trying to push back, but we've got to get the Senate back, and we'll have a lot better success reining in the regulators. Right now, they think that basically the bureaucrats are running the federal government, and they're running our everyday lives, and we've got to change that. And so I'm proud of us being the #1 beef producing state in the country. That's a huge accomplishment. We've got a great diversified ag program, and I will not pretend to know everything about the ag sector, but I know enough to know that Nebraskans rely on it, and we feed the nation and the world.
One of the issues that will probably come up, has at least tried, is you'll start a new Congress. Trade Promotion Authority is something that this president hasn't had, and was that something you would support regardless of who is in the White House?
Absolutely. We need the free trade. I believe in it. It's opening up these markets that will help keep our products all over the world and the demand high and the price is higher, right? That's what we want, and that's something that's key is a free markets. And you know, Nebraska farmers and ranchers can compete with anyone in the world, but we need to have open trading, and that's something the federal government is responsible for, is getting these trade agreements in place, and we need to have that fast-tracked.
Agriculture, of course, is one of the strong economic factors in this state and really in the country. But the other thing, energy. Nebraska, huge energy, especially with ethanol production and other things. Talk about your energy plan and maybe your energy portfolio of how you look at things.
Sure. I actually just this week launched on my website, shaneosborn.com, my 5-point plan for North American energy independence. We have a diversified energy portfolio that includes biofuels, ethanol. We've got, you know, clean coal now that there's an EPA war on coal. That's 70% of our power here in Nebraska. That's going to affect us. And we have the opportunity to become North American energy independent. Our liquefied natural gas reserves to the northwest of us are equal to the reserves of Saudi Arabia's oil. I mean, why aren't we exporting over to Europe? Why aren't we harvesting this energy and creating millions of jobs? And in the energy sector, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's over $100,000 on average, an energy sector job. 2 million jobs created, 100 grand apiece. That's what we need to do. We need to grow this economy, and that's how we can do it. Create the infrastructure that will help our farmers get their products to market as well, lower the cost of energy, have dependable, cheap energy, simplify the tax code, and then those manufacturing and a lot of the jobs are going to come back to the United States, and that's what we must do. We either start building pipelines, becoming energy independent, or keep sending our 18, 19, 20-year-olds over to the Middle East to die in these wars, and it's that simple for me.
Come January, you could be one of 100 sitting as a member of the U.S. Senate. What will be one of your top priority, looking at domestic issues or foreign issues?
Well, I'm a former Navy pilot. I've literally collected intelligence off of every country we're having problems with, and that's not the biggest threat. It's our financial spending. It's the out-of-control growth of government that's our biggest threat. Nebraskans understand we don't spend money we don't have. You know, we have a balanced budget amendment here in Nebraska. Works really well for us. Can you imagine how well something like that would work in Washington, D.C.? The federal government's taking in $200 billion a month. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. They're spending about $300 billion a month. And so that's what we need to do. And that's something I did as state treasurer. I've actually shrunk government, not slowed growth, cut government. As your treasurer, when the people trusted me with their vote, I cut over 4 years the budget nearly 12%. I reduced the staff nearly 28%. But we made the office so much more efficient that we won the National Treasury Marquee Award, the top treasurer's office in the country, public or private. You know, unclaimed property is a good example. With that smaller staff and those cuts, we gave back almost $50 million to to Nebraskans, to give them their money back. Just to put that in perspective, that's in 4 years, over $50 million. That's more than the previous 20 years combined or the previous 4 treasurers combined. So I do know how to shrink government. I do know how to make it more efficient. And I also brought transparency, which is something I really think we need in Washington, D.C. The government's going to take our money. Can't they just give us a receipt, right? And that's nebraskaspending.gov I created, shows Nebraskans where their money's being spent. If you follow the money, you'll find the root of the evil.
Do you have something particular in mind that you want to see cut?
At the federal level, there's already, the Government Accountability Office is a bipartisan. They've already identified 60 redundant agencies that you could wipe out tomorrow. Wouldn't even affect anybody's services. It's a bipartisan thing. Save us over $60 to $70 billion. That's a good start. You know, the Department of Education, why do we need the federal government telling us how to educate our children? Why can't we do that at the local level? I think Nebraskans can figure it out on their own. That's another area. Obviously, Obamacare. I led the rallies around the state against Obamacare back in 2009 before it ever passed. That's another burden on us in creating 16,000 more IRS agents. The IRS, let's simplify. You want something that can get done that's bipartisan, that has bipartisan approval? A simpler, fairer, flatter tax code. The economy would expand. We would rein in. We would stop leaving our domestic companies at such a disadvantage in the foreign marketplace where tax rates are so much lower. And we would see a boom. Plus, we could eliminate many of the 100,000 IRS agents that seem to pick and choose who they're going to pick and choose winners and harass people, quite frankly, just like OSHA and EPA. I mean, these bureaucrats, they need to be reined in.
Well, again, one of the things you talked about is the biggest concern is the nation's financial situation. But we have to talk about what's going on, overseas with Putin, with Crimea, the whole situation. Sure. You might have to cast a vote early next year. Talk about how you're feeling on some of those international things that seem to be popping up.
Well, I collected intelligence. I flew reconnaissance airplanes in the Navy. So I've traveled this world. And when I make these decisions, it's not on academic theory or what I read in the Wall Street Journal. It's on personal experience. And I think that right now you've got a president that's absolutely owned by Putin, a KGB thug, right? And he owns President Obama. Yeah, Syria, best example, the red line in the sand and letting them cross it and having to have Putin step in to supposedly negotiate something. That's absolutely ridiculous that we're in such a weak position that's occurring. The agreement with Iran. Iran can't become nuclear. Right now, we're giving them a pass. They haven't shut down their centrifuges. We're pretending like it's some sort of victory. We don't want a military answer to that solution, but we also can't allow them to become nuclear, and we need to stick with Israel. They do a lot to help protect us and keep these terrorists off our doorstep. And if Iran becomes nuclear capable, they'll use it. They'll absolutely use it. So now you've got, once again, Putin stepping in, supposedly, and he's literally laughing at our president. And now all of a sudden, you have him taking over Ukraine, parts of it at least. And he's already done this in Georgia and kept those parts of Georgia that they went into. This is ridiculous. Now, is there a military solution to this? No. Our military is decimated. Our men and women have done 3, 4, 5 deployments. Our people are worn out, the families are worn out, and the equipment's worn out. And that's not a good solution. But what we can do is try and build the military back so we can have peace through strength. Right now, we don't have that capability. But we also need to kick Russia out of the G8. We need to start becoming North American energy independent. Why aren't we fast tracking? It's going to take long enough anyway, this liquefied natural gas exports. Right now, Putin has a gun to the head of Ukraine and Europe with his pipelines. We need to provide those alternatives, and it's a good business opportunity for us. Not is it the right thing to do from a foreign relations military standpoint, but you even go further east, and you see China now claiming the entire East and South China Sea. That's what they did when I had my mid-air collision back in '01. They're starting to beat their chest pretty hard over there. You've got a prime minister in Japan that's so worried that we aren't going to be there to protect them and follow our obligations that he's talking about rearmament. Well, if Japan starts to rearm, that'll set off an arms race in the Far East that we don't want to see. So right now you've got a president that's worse than Jimmy Carter at foreign policy. You've got a military that needs to be repaired. Priorities need to be made. There's fat in every aspect of government, but where Obama's trying to cut is the warfighters. Now, this country isn't safer than it was a few years ago. This is not time to downsize the warfighters. It's time to make the military operate more efficiently and maybe outsource some of the rear echelon support mechanisms. But at the same time, we need our fighting men and women. We need enough of those in uniform. It's proven with all the different areas of conflict that we've gotten into over the last few years. So it's an important passion of mine. It's clear that this president doesn't get it, and quite frankly, not enough members of Congress do either.
I know you've got lots to do, so let's wrap this up. There's a lot of folks running in this primary to see who will face Mr. Domina in the general election this fall. Let's talk about what makes Shane Osborn different, the Nebraska values and other things you've talked about as you toured the state.
Well, I think leadership matters, quite frankly. I think actions speak louder than words. Nebraskans want somebody that's going to bring results, right? We need somebody in Washington that'll put the country first, above their political party, above any special interest groups. I've proven that. I've worn the nation's uniform and proven not just with my incident with the midair and over China and being a prisoner, but also by redeploying and going to Afghanistan and flying the initial combat missions over there. So I've proven that. Number two, I've kept my promises. When Nebraskans trusted me with their vote as state treasurer, I kept my promises by shrinking government, bringing transparency, making that office more efficient. And finally, I think we need entrepreneurs and businessmen who actually understand the average Nebraskan. Right? I didn't come from wealth. I've built myself up, and this is a great state with opportunity. I was lucky enough to get an ROTC scholarship to University of Nebraska. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to afford college. So I am the American dream. And, if Nebraskans trust me with their vote again, I'll serve them the same way I did as a naval officer, as a state treasurer, and as a family man and businessman with the utmost honor, courage, and commitment.
All right, Shane, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That's Shane Osborn, who is a candidate for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate from Nebraska. In Omaha for AgView, I'm Ken Rahjes.